Well, the Hawks signed 2 people last week. It honestly didn't help at all. What's up, guys? Alexander Thomas here. Welcome back to Sports Hour, Week 5. And this week was a very one-sided week, to be honest, for a lot of teams. And then a lot of teams, it was very close. I'm going to see if I make sure I have it right. Damn, one this week was a unit. The Tex toppled the Tigers. Here's the Browns lost in their divisional match against the Ravens. It's the Athens got crushed by the Panthers. Cardinals defeated the Colts. Dogs bite back against the Supermen. The Otters won over the Pirates, and the Dolphins shot out the. This week was a very interesting week, as you can see here. The first game of the week was the Tex and Tigers game, and the Tigers were expected to win this game by a few points overall. The Tex ended up actually crushing them in the end after scoring the first 30 points in the game. It was 30-0 at the end of the first quarter. A little bit, a little bit more than 30. As the Browns and Ravens faced off, this is probably the toughest game. It was not the game of the week. The game of the week actually was probably... It should not have been the game of the week, let's put it this way. And actually, the Panthers were able to demolish polish the Ethan. I'm going to knock that off, please. Yeah, this week was actually very interesting. If you look here, the Panthers and the Saints have the toughest. Yes, I mean, it's honestly kind of widespread for this division. The Panthers ended up being 4-0 currently, and the Saints are not far behind with a 3-1. Their one loss. Yeah, so something went wrong there. Guys, you guys correct these. Hey, you're good, guys. Just make sure we get these right. Apparently, they put this thing wrong, so the Saints are actually 4-0. What is? Did the Saints lose this week, or did they win? Saints won week 3. Saints lost. Okay, Saints lost last week. That's what it was. Okay. They lost that game. So one thing was the Saints game is very, very one-sided, to be honest, for most of these games. To be honest, it's been a pretty close. I mean, considering the Saints have had some trouble in the past, having a lot of ties. They had 5 ties and 6 ties in last season's. Yes. The Pirates were looking to be really good this season, but to be honest, they have not done well at all. And I really need to make sure I have this right. They lost the first 3 games. They did win this week. At least the way I have put out, they did. The Pirates lost. That was week 3. Hold on. Pirates did not win this week. Which week did he win? They lost that week. That's partly because they've had some injuries and processings. They win week 2. Pirates won week 2. That's what it was. Okay. And correct score, but not the correct game. We look at these before, and we don't always get them right. So they're currently 1-3 here. This division was supposed to be the toughest division overall, period. Yeah. And to be honest, it's been kind of, oh, you won 1, you lost 1. It's kind of like even half and half. Yeah. The Panthers generally have had an easy schedule up to this point. Pretty much their hardest game. They've actually had some half and half games, to be honest. I mean, if you look at the Panthers, they had the Werewolves, they had the Dragons, but they've had 2 easy games too. So at this point, there was 2 games that they were kind of iffy at winning. They did win both of those games, and then there was 2 games that they were supposed to have won. Period. As for the Saints, looking at this week,
They're supposed to have an average record, and their hardest one was Lightning. They've had a fairly easy schedule at this point. They got to play the Panthers next week, and that's a huge hint. But not much else happening with that. Big thing is the Cardinals, Dragons, and Twins. Pretty close. Hawks made a trade last week, and they did not have 6.5 points. It's probably 65. Let's see. Yeah, I missed a thing. They've had some trouble. They've had some trouble last season. I mean, Grant, they signed 2 players to their team, and it just hasn't shown up. They haven't had the players. They haven't had the team needed, and they haven't had any injuries this last week. So, now, Grant, they were playing the Dragons this week. So, then the Dragons are supposed to be the toughest team overall. Not really showing a big portion for that regard. The NFC Southwest, although this is actually not completely right, the Indians being 0-3-1, tying week 1. Yes, the Browns and Tigers are kind of fighting for who's going to be the leader, and the only reason the Browns are ahead right now is because they have more points per game. Because the first stanza is points scored. Second stanza is division. Third stanza is how many points they allow. As you can see, the Browns do lead in all 3 of those right now. The only one they don't lead is in the division. And that's going to be interesting. This, I think, is probably going to be one of the tougher divisions for at the end of the season. It just hasn't been so tough so far. As for the NBC East, it's been a pretty wild division. I mean, Dogs, Angels. Because the problem with the Dogs right now is even though the Dogs did win against the Supermen this week, there hasn't been much scoring for the Dogs, and that's going to be what's going to hurt them later in the season if they can't win that game. And this week was, in fact, a very weird week for them. But Grant, you saw the Dogs. If you saw, the Dogs did, in fact, win that game. But Grant, it was probably one of the easier games that the Dogs are going to have this year, playing against the Jets. Probably most because the Jets have not won a game yet, and I don't think they're going to win a game this season if they're going to continue going offense. We'll talk about that more later. As for the Hawks, they just need to win. Now, granted, this is really their toughest game all season. If you look at the Hawks, once we get to it, the Hawks division. And you see, they've lost the first 4 games. And they've actually not scored higher than 77 points, as you hear. And to be honest, they've had 3 fairly decently easy games. They have won the 5th best offense in the league. Their offense, however, is not showing up. Let's put it this way: scoring only 77 points on average, only scoring. Make sure I'm getting this right here. An average only scoring 61 points per game.
doesn't really help much. They should have an easy week next week playing against the Bobcats. Bobcats have not done well either. So this will be an interesting week for them. Don't see much for that division, though, in the end. Werewolves still lead the division for that one. Honestly, it's a very disappointing division. Werewolves have the best record, and that's 2 wins, 1 loss. 2 wins, 1 loss, and a tie. But honestly, they all have very impressive scores. Bobcats just haven't had what it takes to. They've allowed more, but here's the thing: every single one of them have allowed more points, other than the Werewolves, in their games than the points they've scored. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And though for that team, Dolphins, honestly, the Dolphins and Athens have done some decency. As for UNC and the Jets, they haven't done anything, which is we can just say they don't exist. Lions have been really impressive over these years. However, so was every other team in their division. Lightning also having a 4-0 record starting off the season. Although I'm kind of questioning that at this point. Just looking at it. No, they have indeed won all 4 games. But to be honest, this is probably going to be the toughest division of it. I wouldn't be surprised if they were in the same division that the Lightning or Lions would go undefeated. Honestly, I think they'll both be even at this point. Lightning score more points. I think the Lions will beat the Lions in their first game, which we'll find out what that game is eventually. Superman Beagles, it's not been a terrible division, but it's not been a great division. And none of them are like, we're scoring infinite points here. Most of them have not scored very high points. Alright, so now we get to this week's predictions for this week. Actually, we'll go ahead, guys. I don't need to see that. I'm not doing too well, honestly. And if you guys want to pick, go ahead and put that down in the comments down below these videos. No one else has actually picked their team, and you can do the teams. You'll lose at this point you won't lose any points until the 15th. The 15th is the end date. So if you do it, you're gonna lose. You'll lose 1 point per point as well. But that's the chance. Honestly, I have not done terribly, but honestly, I'm not picking much better than the overall, and so my picks are going to be interesting for this week in that regard. I'm going right now 41-23, and the overall is 40-24. So I'm doing slightly better than the overall, but not much. Okay, we're going now to week 5. In week 5, we've got it. I now highlighted all of the divisional games with the blue text, and the game of the week is going to be the light green color. Actually, let's change this. The green one is going to be game of the week. Divisional games are excluded from games of the week. They cannot be the game of the week. But we got some interesting combinations here. The first game is a divisional game between the Bulldogs and the Dragons. It is in favor of the Dragons. However, I'm having some questionable doubts about the Dragons doing well in this week. And there's not much for me to say about this game, in the fact that the Dragons have done decently over their couple of games. However, they're not really the team I'm going to say, hey, you guys are going to win every game. And honestly, that's what I thought they were going to be. I was predicting that those two games that team was going to be a pretty high standard. I think I picked them in the end to win. I think it was like 14-1. We can go back. I can go back. I'm going to go and determine that for sure, but I think it was that. I picked them to be okay. I think I actually picked them to be the bottom of the division, the second in the division. I actually picked them to be 8-8. What was it? 8-10, I believe at that point. So not a great prediction. Honestly, since they've won the first 4 games, I picked them to win the only three of those games, and then I picked them to lose against the Dragons. Guess what? They are currently 4-0. I don't see them doing that the entire season. The problem with the Bulldogs have a great combination. And that's the only thing I have for them. They're of a decent team. The Dragons have a better team, though. However, in this case, I have to go with the Dragons have not impressed me. Hey, I mean, Grant, looking at they week 1 they lost. That was a team I expected them to beat. I expected them to win against the Chargers, which they did. I expected them to win. Did I expect them to win? Should have been bold. I expected them to lose against the Panthers, but that's because I thought the Panthers were going to do slightly better. They only lost by a few points, though. So, to be honest, and then the last week, they did win by a lot, which I think that's honestly the teams that the Dragons have played against haven't really impressed me a lot. So in my prediction here is that the Bulldogs will actually win this game, although the Dragons do have a high advantage. I'm gonna go 7-point prediction in favor of the Bulldogs. Now I could be completely wrong about that. But that is the divisional game, and I think divisional games will be a whole lot tougher on teams. All right, Ravens, Werewolves. If the Ravens surprisingly came out and won against the Browns, I can't say much else, though. Let me see. The Ravens actually do have Stephanie Robinson back. He is back on the team after being out for a week. So he is possibly a benefit to their team. Their team's still not going to be great in the context of this. I have to go with this team being an interesting. The Werewolves haven't done great, and the Ravens haven't done great. This is going to be an interesting matchup, and honestly, this could easily be a very good game. I'm going to give favor to the Werewolves here, but I don't think it's going to be a very far off game. It's 22 points in favor of the Werewolves, and I think it's a little far. I think the Ravens will still put up a fight. I'm going to go with 5 points. And honestly, these predictions mean nothing. Westville and Athens. Talk about the two worst teams in the league, technically. As the Athens, as Westville defensive struggle continues. Westville will have actually only allowed 2 more points than they have scored. But in the Onyx, they're only scoring 79 points per game. And to be honest, I don't know that that's going to be good enough when they're facing against the Athen, who are, in context, scoring slightly better. Not much, but they are doing good. They're doing about 80 points per game. And I think, on average, this is going to be a very tough game. I have to go in and give favor to Westville here, but I think it's going to be a very close game. I'm going to go with a 2-point prediction. Westville has the favor here. I mean, Athen has favor, but I think Westville does have a better chance of winning. All right. Another game that could have easily game of the week, but promised divisional, so it can't be the game of the week. Panthers and Saints at 3:20 on Saturday. Tough game. And the previous prediction I had for that was the Panthers would win that game. And then when I had the Panthers pick winning both times, this is actually very tough for me to pick this game because I really think both these teams are doing really well. Saints are doing 3-1. I think in the end, I'm probably going to pick the Saints to win the second game. I'm picking the Panthers to win this game, and if the Panthers do end up losing this game, then I'll probably pick the Saints in the second game. I'll go with 5-point prediction. I think it's still completely lopsided. All right, Indians and Otters. Indians not showing much over here. Let me see what we have here. Indians have very few people on their team. They didn't sign anybody when they started off things. Their best player is Kurt James. They did not sign anybody, which I think is going to be a mistake in the end. They didn't sign anyone. They didn't do anything with this. The Otters didn't sign anyone either, but they have a full roster, pretty much. And they have some people they can put out their practice squad, which I think is going to be fair for the Otters. I don't think it is terribly one-sided for this. I'm going to go with a 1-point prediction, a 1-point prediction for that game in favor of the Otters. But honestly, this is going to be a very good game in the end. All right, Falcons and Lions. I don't even really say much about it. The Lions have 4-0, and the Falcons are 0-4. I think this is completely one-sided. Even though it's a 1-point prediction in favor of the Falcons, I'm going with 7 points in favor of the Lions. I don't see the way that the Falcons at this point are going to be able to come back and win that game. They're not out anybody, and they have a pretty decent roster. But then again, so do the Lions. So don't see much. I mean, the Lions do have a slight disadvantage in the context they don't have players. That's the only thing I can think about that. Browns and Colts. Browns lost a little bit of edge this last week when they faced off against the Ravens. But honestly, I don't see much. The Colts have an advantage in this game because they are playing with a much better team with a 90 overall. But the problem is, 90 doesn't really say much when we're talking about the Browns team, who are much lower overall. And honestly, I don't see anywhere the Colts would win this game. But I'm going to pick the Browns in this game by 1. I think the Colts will tap out in this game and not be able to win. And mostly because the Colts are a little short on players. And it's not because they are having any injuries. Overall, make sure I'm right about that. They have a practically full roster. but they do not have the team. It's 89 overall, basically 90, versus the Browns, who do not have a full roster. They're a little short. They only have, 9 players on their team. And I think that's going to get, but I'm going to give the Browns a favor. And as long as I don't have anyone injured and Tim Piper, the captain of the team, doesn't, I'm going to go and give them the win. Okay, a tough game between the Pirates and Lightning. This game could have easily been the game of the week. Pirates are 1-3 right now. The Lightning are 4-0. This is going to be a very interesting match. We have a 9-point advantage to the Pirates. And to be honest, with the Pirates having their full team back, I think they're going to be unstoppable from this point forward. I mean, granted, they had some trouble in the first couple games, and yes, they didn't have the full roster in the entire game. But I think are going to have a chance. As for the Lightning do have some things going for them. They are 4-0. They have some decent players. They even put Sam Darkwood back on their team as of this week for the roster. This is going to be an interesting game. I have to say, I could say it's going to go anywhere. I would not be surprised if this game goes to overtime. I'm going to pick the Pirates to win this game by 4. And not just because I think the Pirates will have a slightly better team. Lightning, I will not be surprised if they win. Tex and UNC. Talk about teams that are a little weak. UNC hasn't won a game yet, which I guess the Tex have an advantage there. The only advantage the Tex do have is that the Tex are in a better position overall. But they're not really much better. They're 1-2-1, and looking at what the Tex have scored an average of 82 points per game, and guess what? UNC does 87 points per game. So this game could go either way. And my prediction here is that the Tex do end up winning this game, but this could go either way, honestly. I'm going to go for 2-point advantage in favor of it. And prediction doesn't mean anything. So, okay, Dolphins and Jets. This is a divisional game. I'm going Dolphins all the way. The Dolphins, while I have not been impressed with them, the Jets, I have been really just impressed with them. And with the fact that the Dolphins score an average, 94 points per game, but the Jets only score 78, I'm pretty sure it's a pretty safe game to go with the Jets. All right, Giants and Dogs. This is a huge game. Not the game of the week because it's a divisional, but it's a huge game between these two teams. Dogs 2-2, Giants 3-1. The thing is, I have to say I'm going to break the Giants here, and the reason really is the Giants have a much better stance overall. Looking at this, the Giants have almost 400 points, 98 and about 99 points per game, allowing almost the same amount though is the only difference. The Dogs, however, only are scoring 288 points, 72 points per game, and have allowed 330. I think with the context of the Giants having a better team overall, I mean, granted, their defense is terrible. That sounds completely wrong. I may be wrong about that. Are they really that bad? Let me see, is that right? Oh, I guess that's not quite. That's about right. The only difference, I think the Jets will have an advantage in the context of their offense will be able to crush them. The Dogs' only advantage is they're going to have a much better defense. And yes, this game could go either way. Hold on, let me put this 16 points advantage. This game could go either way, and the Jet Dogs do have a slight tackle advantage. I'm going to go with the Giants, and I'm going to go with a 9-point pick. All right, Hawks and Bobcats. 20 points in favor of the Knicks. However, if we look at the Hawks' record, the Hawks haven't won a game yet. They're not going to win any games if they keep going like this. Look, 0-4. Only scoring less than 250, 61 points per game, which is, by the way, I think the lowest score of any team. Yeah, the next closest would be 60. Is almost 70. So I just don't see it. I don't see the Bobcats having any chance at winning this game normally in the beginning of the season. I picked the Bobcats to win this game partly because I don't see it to have the Hawks are going to do anything. I mean, granted, they got 2 players. Maybe that will change something. But I'm going to go with a 12-point advantage in Craig's favor of the Bobcats. Yes, I know. I am picking the Bobcats, even though the Hawks have a much higher chance of winning this game. Because, they have a better offense, better defense. And granted, who knows, they might actually win this game. I don't see much chance for the Bobcats to win normally, but because the Hawks haven't impressed me at all these games, I'm going to go with that. All right, the game of the week is the Tigers and the Packers. Both teams 3-1. This game could go either way. Tigers having the better offense. Packers, if I can find them, having the better. Actually, honestly, not having better anything. I'm gonna go with Tigers winning this game, but I think honestly this could go either way. And with a 7 points advantage of the Tigers, I think it's about right. I think it's going to be there and there. All right, Superman and Chargers, another divisional game. Superman having a huge season so far. Chargers not really having so much at all. Chargers have looking at the points fits, Chargers are getting on average only 75 points per game. Superman is scoring only slightly better than that, 82. What I think the advantage is going to be here is that the Chargers are allowing way more points than the Supermen are allowing overall. And my prediction will be the Supermen will win this game. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting one. I'm going to go with a 5-point prediction in favor. All right, Beagles and Angels. I don't even know how to tell you about this game because this game is going to be a very interesting. My webcam is going on the wrong side. Hold on. It's going to be a very difficult and interesting game for Beagles and Angels. Honestly, this game I think is one of those games that could go either way. And I don't even know which game to pick here because both these teams are very evenly matched. Now, granted, the rating overall doesn't show that. 7 points in advantage for the Beagles. I'm going to pick the Beagles in this game. I'm going to go with a 1-point prediction, though. I think it's a very close game. All right, Knights and Cardinals. The ratings are very much similar and very much the same between the Cardinals, who have
and a slightly fairly decent defense versus the Knights, who have only slightly different 86. So that's the minimum. What am I doing? I mean, looking at these averages, they both have the same average overall. And honestly, this game could go either way. I'm going to give the benefit to the Cardinals here. Well, actually, let me look at this. Take that back. My predictions are not quite careful yet. The Cardinals, looking at them, are averaging 85 points per game versus the other team, which is the Knights, are scoring on 82. So honestly, pretty close. Overall, it's about a 1 point difference between the teams. And honestly, I could see it's coming. I'm going to go give the Cardinals the win here. But honestly, I can't even predict this game. I'm going to go with a 1 point in favor of the Cardinals. And this game could easily go in overtime as well. So those are my predictions for this week. And for I honestly had my team. I don't normally do this, but my team actually did pretty well this week. Every one of my players that wasn't Panthers went up one. So the only team I think didn't go up one was I think the Chargers didn't go up one. No, the Bobcats didn't go up one. But otherwise, everything I did pretty well. As for the rankings, it's been pretty decent. 23 points for my team. And guys, if you do want to put your team in together, you can take your roster. The roster is available. You can pick your players to all players. I think I'm going to probably put a link into this video. If it isn't there, then I'll put it into the next video. I'm going to put a link into it every, the 8th. The 8th will be the time I'll put the next activations to the roster. Otherwise, this has been an interesting week, and next week will be a very interesting, and it'll be also a lot of battles. I mean, last week these are the divisional games. We had 3 divisional games last week. We had 4. We have 5 of them this week, and 1 pretty decent game week at 6:30 on Sunday. I will see you guys again next Thursday. And don't forget, guys, if you guys do want to pick your teams or pick brands, you can put those in. I will update those names and you'll see them every week as well for that. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm on Sports Hour.